When a detached man suddenly forgets his name and place, he enrolls in an experimental recovery program where he must complete a series of tasks to start his life anew. Amidst an epidemic of amnesia, a grieving man called Aris bangs his head on his apartment wall, trying to knock some sense into his mind. As he takes solace from the radio, the announcer suddenly mentions the new identity program of the Disturbed Memory Department of the Neurological Hospital. They announce that the program would commence in 2 additional hospitals, making it more accessible for the increasing population of amnesiacs to seek professional help. Shortly, Aris exits his building and greets his neighbor's dog, Malu. As he walks further, he sees a woman asking a man sitting on the street to move his incorrectly parked car. Realizing the man has amnesia, the concerned stranger offers to get him an ambulance. Aris then buys flowers and goes on with his day until he falls asleep on the bus ride home. At the last stop, the bus driver wakes and asks where Aris is supposed to go, but the man fails to remember even his own name. Understanding that the passenger has amnesia, the driver calls an ambulance for help. In the emergency vehicle, the medic learns that Aris doesn't have an ID, so he informs his colleague that their patient is unidentified. At the hospital, a doctor captures photographs of other unidentified amnesiacs whom they temporarily call by their number. When she calls 14842, Aris meekly takes his identification picture. In an amnesiac ward, Aris eats his apple and asks another patient about how he was discovered. Though unsure of his memory, the man shares that he was found during a game on a football field where he felt a sudden pain in his head. Uncertain if he likes apples, the man gives his fruit to Aris, who seems fond of them. The following day, a doctor examines Aris's head, noting that the patient has no symptoms of the illness like the rest. When he wakes, Aris finds 3 doctors observing him, where no one officially diagnoses him as suffering from amnesia. As Aris wonders how he got the sickness, the woman informs him that the disease strikes without warning, so they don't have a definite answer while cases pile up. Nonchalantly, the first doctor reveals there is no cure for amnesia, and none has regained their memories. Despite the unfortunate news, the woman reminds her colleague not to disappoint their patients, noticing Aris' somber expression. Nevertheless, Aris may return home if a relative claims him. In the meantime, the doctors prescribe him an amabarbital sedative while participating in ongoing recovery tests. During a memory test, Aris hangs his head in shame every time he incorrectly identifies the objects inside a box. Regardless, the woman praises him when he gets one of them right. However, Aris fails to show overall progress, but the woman forces a smile to alleviate the sullen mood. Moving on to the next test, the doctors play a festive song while Aris tries to match it with the appropriate celebration picture. Much to their disappointment, Aris fails each one. As Aris reluctantly takes his sedative, he learns that his wardmate was claimed by his family. Alone in his room, Aris gazes out his window, wondering if he'll ever rejoin the world outside. One morning, the female doctor joins Aris on a bench and informs him that he might spend a lifetime in the hospital, since no one appears to be looking for him. Moreover, the doctor reminds him of the unequal opportunities he might face outside the facility. To help the troubled patient, the doctor introduces Aris to their experimental program, New Identity, where they help amnesiacs to begin again and to create a new persona. Eager to get out of the hospital, Aris takes up on her offer to talk about it more. In the doctor's office, the woman discusses potential tasks for their program's enrollees with her senior colleagues. Shortly after, Aris knocks on their door, ready to relieve himself from his mundane life. Soon, the female doctor drives Aris to his new home as he eats his apples. Arriving in the apartment, the recorded voice on a cassette tape announces the amnesiac's first task, riding a bike. While the record ends, the doctor entrusts her patient with an envelope of cash for his expenses. She then bids goodnight to the reclusive man and leaves. Left alone, Aris explores his new apartment, finding oranges on the table and checking out what the program managers left for him. The following day, Aris arranges the room to his liking and dresses up to start his task. When the amnesiac fails to borrow a teenager's bicycle at the park, he borrows a kid's ride. Despite the small bike, Aris goes around the park while children watch him as he falls down a curb. To document his successful task, Aris sets his Polaroid camera and photographs himself on the bicycle. Arriving home that night, Aris places his picture in a scrapbook to document his experiences, as the program suggests. The following day, the amnesiac selects apples from a store and the fruit vendor asks where he lives. Aris replies with his old street number, but corrects himself immediately. Seeing that his customer likes apples, the vendor gives him another one to taste. As Aris takes a bite, he claims he's never had a delicious apple, forgetting that he had one in the hospital, so the generous vendor chooses for him. While arranging apples at his apartment, Aris listens to his task on tape, encouraging him to build new relationships at an upcoming costume party. Later that night, Aris, dressed up as an astronaut, watches an ambulance take a new amnesiac partygoer dressed as Batman. While waiting for a bus ride home, Aris sits awkwardly with an amnesiac woman who struggles to socialize like him. When Aris reaches home, he mimics the slow movements of an astronaut as he listens to the new task on the cassette player. The project manager instructs him to enter a club and finds a woman to dance for him, prompting him to develop a sensual interest. Trusting the program's bold missions, Aris reluctantly watches a woman dance alluringly on stage. He then asks the performer for others who may dance for him privately. As per Aris's request, a woman dances for him in a private booth while keeping his hands to himself. To complete his task, the amnesiac asks the dancer to be still as he snaps a picture of them together for his scrapbook. On his way home, Aris passes by a television store and stops to watch a muted film about two lovers, unfamiliar with the feeling of intimacy towards another person. Days later, the female doctor arrives with her senior colleague at Aris's building to check on him. When the amnesiac doesn't respond to their doorbell, the woman uses her keys to enter, assuming he's out. As the old doctor eats and commends Aris's cooking, the female doctor finds the patient's scrapbook. The two admire the amnesiac's punctuality and obedience to the given task through his album, so the woman checks the rest of the house. Meanwhile, Aris buys a sandwich at the park. His previous neighbor's dog recognizes and approaches him enthusiastically. Similarly, the amnesiac greets Malou and pets her knowingly. Suddenly, Aris hears his old neighbor catching up on the escaped dog, so he baits Malou with a piece of his sandwich to keep her in place as he hurriedly walks away. Arriving at his home, Aris throws his sheets over his head, exasperated by the unexpected reconnection with his old life. The following day, Aris grabs the parcel containing the tape with his next task, adamant about continuing the program. While watching a horror film at the cinema, Aris eyes a terrified woman hiding behind the seats, while he remains indifferent to the chilling scene. Afterward, the amnesiac takes a photograph with the movie poster to document his accomplished task. When the frightened woman notices him, she advises Aris to use a camera flash for a better result. Then, the woman, Anna, who happens to be an amnesiac enrolled in the same program as Aris, asks him to take her photograph. After having her picture, Anna joins the detached man as they head in the same direction. Along the way, Anna shares her thoughts about the movie, hoping the hospital had let them watch similar films. Learning that she came from the hospital like him, Aris wonders if no one looked for her, which she affirms. As the two amnesiacs find common ground, Anna asks Aris to help her with a difficult task tomorrow, so he says yes. The following day, Aris watches a street busker struggling to play a children's song with his guitar, giving him some change before excitedly entering his new friend's apartment building. While browsing Anna's scrapbook, Aris learns she's way ahead of him on their assignments as he listens to her next task to be accomplished outside town. Shortly, the pair head out to the garage and search for the vehicle lent by the program. When Anna mistakenly identifies the car and triggers its alarm, they run away until they finally find the right one. In the passenger seat, Aris asks if Anna knows how to drive, so the woman assures him while incorrectly switching on the windshield wipers. On the road, Anna tells her friend about the popular romance movie called Titanic, while Aris looks out for her driving. While looking for a place to park, Aris switches on the radio until he finds a song to which he sings along. When Anna acknowledges that he remembers the song by heart, Aris stops singing and abruptly diverts the topic. However, Anna fails to park correctly and hits a tree. Despite their accident, Aris takes Anna's photograph beside the crashed car to document her wild experience. Without a vehicle in the middle of the forest, the amnesiacs continue their trip back on foot along the empty road. When they return to town, Aris watches his tireless friend maintain a handstand against a wall. Anna wonders if she was ever an athlete to have such skill as she counts to 154 seconds, believing it's 4 minutes long, making Aris laugh. Afterward, Anna bids goodbye to Aris, expecting they'll meet again tomorrow as she enters her building. On his way home, Aris finds another amnesiac taking a picture by himself with a bike, accomplishing his first assignment. For Aris's next task, the project manager instructs him to take a high dive into a pool, so the amnesiac nervously climbs the top of the diving tower. However, Aris decides against it and accomplishes his assignment at the first level. In his apartment, Aris tinkers with Anna's broken camera while she browses his scrapbook. Shortly, the man successfully fixes the Polaroid and tries to take a picture of his friend, only to find it ran out of film. Then, Anna prepares to leave, but Aris invites her to stay longer for dinner. When Anna declines, Aris insists on tagging along. As Aris finds himself in a dance club, he watches over the crowd in disinterest. Then, the song Let's Twist Again plays, making him join the pulsing crowd as he fervently twists his body in muscle memory. However, Aris abruptly stops, realizing he's dancing in a familiar fashion. Much later, Anna joins her friend at the bar counter, so Aris invites her to leave, but she refuses for an unspoken reason. Eventually, the woman agrees after having one last drink and praises his dancing. Contrary to their argument, the amnesiacs join the couples on the dance floor. When Anna hugs Aris, she whispers that she's going to the toilet and invites him to follow her there. Though confused, Aris abides and sees Anna about to unzip her dress in front of him. After an intimate moment, Aris returns home, contemplating his actions. The following day, he rings the woman's apartment to no avail. In memory of his broken friendship, Aris returns to Anna's wrecked vehicle in the forest and takes a picture with it. Soon after, Aris stocks up on his apples at the local store, making the vendor assume he has stomach aches. Then he mentions that apples are good for memory, so Aris despondently returns them and picks oranges instead. Disheartened by what he learned about his favorite fruit, Aris starts eating oranges and listens to his next assignment. The program instructs him to get wasted in a club, find a partner who's good at dancing, hug them, and invite them into the bathroom for a one-night stand. Hearing this, Aris realizes that Anna only used him to complete her assignment, understanding why she had cut him off. When Aris is about to return to his apartment one day, he finds Anna ringing his house, so he hides behind a tree across the street. After seeing the woman leave, he hurriedly enters his building. Later that day, the two doctors of the program visit Aris and browse his scrapbook. The female doctor wonders why he doesn't have a picture of the recent assignment, so the amnesiac claims he forgot to document it because of drunkenness. Dubious of the increasingly absurd tasks, Aris wonders how much longer he needs to follow the program, but the doctor claims they'll let him know if he's ready to be released. As the senior doctor browses the photographs, he asks his colleague about the task with the parachute. For Aris's discretion, the female doctor explains that his succeeding tasks will be more complicated. Moments later, Aris listens to his next assignment, where he must befriend a dying man in a hospital, visit them every day, attend their funeral, and console their relatives. Soon after, Aris desolately visits every room at the hospital, looking for a man nearing his end. Eventually, the amnesiac finds an old man and talks to his daughter about his ailing condition. Afterward, Aris bids goodbye, saying he'll swing by to visit. One night, Aris helps his new friend eat, and the old man wishes to have some homemade pastries like his amnesiac wife used to make. Then, the old man wonders if Aris is married, so the amnesiac reveals that his wife passed away and promises to bring his friend the pastry he wants. Before Aris returns home, he dines at a bar and he notices a couple dancing, reminded of the love he has lost. The following day, while Aris is preparing pastry for his old friend, someone buzzes on his door. He then hears Anna on the other end, so he reluctantly replies. The woman invites him to accompany her to a funeral as she's disinterested in going, but Aris declines, making Anna leave on her own. Later that day, Aris visits his friend at the hospital with a homemade cake to surprise him. Unfortunately, he's too late as he finds the old man's room empty. Days after, Aris tearfully attends to his old friend's funeral, far enough from the man's family. Disheartened from losing his friends, Aris returns home and listens to the new tape. Before the recording stops, Aris abruptly ends it, frustrated by the ludicrous tasks he has to endure at the expense of his emotions. Then he dresses up and solemnly visits his late wife's grave, offering flowers similar to what he bought before he got amnesia. Afterward, Aris visits his old place, where he greets his old neighbor, seeking entry to the building. Upstairs, he sneaks inside his apartment, where he finds everything untouched. Then, Aris cleans up the mess he left. He picks up a good apple and eats it in peace as he reconciles with the old memories he tried to forget.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.